let's chat commodities now, where we have seen the prices quite volatile. Sugar for one, let's talk about that first. And we did see the prices gain up in the previous week, but that doesn't seem to be holding as higher prices have deterred a bit of a demand. But that's not all. With the latest data that the markets are working with, the 5 million ton export target for sugar for this season is expected to be missed. What we have seen until now is that the contracted amount has been nearly half of that at around 2.8 million tons. And out of that as well, just about 1.7 million tons is what has been exported until now. It has been about the uncompetitive global sugar prices, and we also have seen surplus in the international markets as well. And even as the government in the last 1 year has given a lot of subsidies, whether it has been on cane or transport, but the clauses that have been put along with it haven't really made life easier, and that really seems to be the bit of a concern. So as I said, 2.2 million tons was contracted. Out of that, 1.7 million tons is all that we have been able to export until time in the season. Praful Vitlani of All India Sugar Trade Association now joins us with his sense on that. Mr. Vitlani, hi, good to have you. What is your viewpoint really, especially when it comes to the export numbers? We did see government mandate a higher export target this time around, but even that doesn't really seem to be anywhere near on what India has exported till time.
Yeah, actually, though whatever we have achieved is also not, because the way the central government has helped with Commerce Ministry and Finance Ministry as well as Food Ministry and everyone. And I would like to just tell you that we have dispatches from sugar factory to the ports is 2.2 billion, that is 22 lakh ton. So we can...
Vitlani, your line is slightly scratchy. We'll come back to you. We'll try and reconnect you really. But I get your point, yes, that the government has laid out various subsidies, as I was saying, whether it has been on cane or it has been on transport. But even with all of that, India has not been able to sell or export out the surplus sugar from the country. The coming season, of course, could be a bit of a concern because we are working with an El Nino year. There is already a drought kind of a situation in Mumbai. And if we are preparing ourselves for delayed and deficient monsoon this time around, it could be difficult, especially for a crop like cane, which is a water guzzler to begin with. But the kind of sugar that we have in the country right now, and with the kind of carry forward stocks that we have, it still is quite sufficient sugar that we are looking at for in the country and the international markets as well. As far as the prices go, as I was telling you, we have seen some bit of gains come in there, and that also goes to the government, because we have seen the minimum selling price for the sugar being increased to 31 rupees per kg. But this is an industry that could perhaps see some more concerns coming across, especially with the WTO conversation that also is expected to begin in the next week. Mr. Vitlani, you were saying that even with the government's push, we haven't really been able to overcome the kind of issues that we have.
See, 1 month back, we were not thinking that even more than 3 million ton can go from India. But now we can expect even 3.5 around.
Okay.
And 22 lakh ton is already dispatched from the sugar factories for the exports. That 1.7 million metric ton is actual exports from the...
So you are saying 3.5 million tons is what we will be able to export, not 5 for sure.
So, yeah, at present we don't feel like that it is. But, since we have another 5 months, and since India is at very lowest rate, something miracle is cannot be ruled out.
Okay.
But we are getting achievable for 70% of target.
Okay. Mr. Vitlani, while of course we are looking at exports right now, and there is a quota that the government also fixes, what is your sense for the next season now? Because while we are pretty sure on what we might see this season coming up as, but the next season, where we are looking at drought in various producing states, and it's an El Nino year, there could be weather concerns. Do you see sugar production then, the cane sowing, sugar production, etc., actually come down quite a bit from what we've seen in the year?
Yeah. See, actually, our association still not have focus for the next season, but I can tell you that, yes, El Nino fear is already there at media at every point. And the position is that balance it on opening stock around 13.5 million metric ton is going to be the ever highest in India.
Okay.
Means historical high, because 10.5 was our opening stock. Say around 32.5 production, so 43 total availability. 26 domestic, and say 3.5 export. So we will left with 13.5 as opening stock in the new season. So that is almost 50% of requirement of the next season of India's consumption domestic, which is very highest. And yes, as far as production is concerned, there is a concern over everywhere that cannot be repeated like 32.6 in the next season. It may come down, but what figure, it's very much early without monsoon and everything to comment on to it.
Yeah, these are early days. I was just trying to get your opinion on that, Mr. Vitlani. But thank you so much for joining us with your sense on that. The major point, of course, coming across is that the exports at 3.5 million ton is what we might see in sugar out of the 5 mandated. But moving on to other commodities, and crude oil prices is something that you have to keep an eye on. Even with the 0.5% and more of decline, we still are holding around that $71 per barrel mark for the Brent prices. Priyank Upadhyay of SSJ Finance and Securities now joins us to talk further about that. Priyank, hi. What is your sense on crude? I mean, discounting all the bad, weak news in the global markets, this is one sector that has been holding high. Are you a buyer at these levels?
You rightly pointed out, Manisha. Energy complex is the most lucrative complex as of now across the commodity basket. Right now, we have seen crude oil prices rallying from around 60 to 65 on the WTI. But I feel the 65 could prove as a hurdle in a very short-term perspective. And as long as 65 resists on the higher side, we are expecting a dip towards 63, 62.5. That's another $1.5 on the. So on MCX, I feel 45, 30 is a stiff resistance in the short term. If prices stays below that, we could expect 43, 70 to 43 zones, which are again a good support area.
Priyank, coming on the natural gas prices also, because we have seen volatility on that, and while of course the crude inventories in US gained up, it was really the gasoline inventories which saw a decline. What is the impact that you see on the natural gas demand prices going forward?
See, natural gas price, it's moving in a sideways to negative in the last few trading sessions. After hitting a low of around 2.65, we saw a brief rally toward 2. On MCX, if I translate, it's from 183 to we have seen a rally toward, and now we are consolidating 187. My sense is like we could head higher towards 195 in the short term. So I would be a buyer at 187 with a stop loss below 182 for targets of around 195 in the short.
All right, Priyank, we've noted down those strategies in the energy space. Thank you so much for coming by and giving out them to us. But with that, that's all the time on this edition of Closing Bell. But before we leave you, on to a quick Network 18 initiative. 90 crore voters have the power to choose a government they want. Elect 542 representatives who will speak up for them in Parliament and help drive the country forward. But even 70 years down the line, India has never had 100% voting. Almost a third of the eligible voters don't vote. Can we have 25-30 crore Indians not voting? News 18 has taken it upon itself to reach out to its audience of nearly 70 crore viewers to encourage them to vote. It is our country and it is our duty. Button dabao, Desh banao.